So this is Newty from Nutation. He represents the idea of nutation. And Jashan, you want to say?
Yes, of course. It's a fish, so that brings the flavor of Goa's, right, by the sea. But more so, with him, we'll swim along with him in the waves of change.
Wow.
So the idea is the waves of change. Newty swimming with the waves of change.
Wow.
Now I call upon Ms. Priya Bumkar, who is the convener of this conference. Ms. Priya Bumkar.
नमस्कार. आपले सगळ्यांचे स्वागत आहे इकडे. I think I can start with saying one thing. This is a different. You must have done many press conferences. This one is different. This one is different because it's all about color. It's all about color and it's related to the lives of each and every person. So you are welcome to the very colorful industry today. And I think this idea about color and the impression about color is something that you can carry when you leave the room. You can carry it back home. We are very, very glad to be here in going to host the Indian Paint Association Conference. This is the 30th and 31st Indian Paint Association Conference. You have seen a lot of numbers in the video which talked about how's the size and what is the impact of the industry on people's lives, what is the size of the industry, how many people it employs, what kind of work it really does. But let me talk a little bit about the Indian Paint Association. So the IPA, the logo that you saw, is actually the representative body of the paint industry in India. This is an association of paint companies and it represents now. So now the paint industry in India itself is about 120 years old, more than 100-year-old. It's been in existence since 1900 or 1905 or something. And it has been consistently growing, it is becoming stronger by the day. And the Indian Paint Association itself is a body which was formed almost 60 years ago. And every 2 years they host this conference, and this conference happens across the country and it goes by rotation, east, west, north, south, the different zones of India. So it pretty much covers the whole country by itself. This one is in the west zone and we as conveners decided to have it in Goa for the love of Goa, which is there in everybody's hearts. And it's a 3-day event. We have chosen Nutation, reimagining the paint business, as the theme of the conference. Now let me say a few words about the reason why we have chosen this theme. As you are aware, the lives of everybody, the way we live today is not even the same that what we lived 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Our lives have been impacted by a lot of things which are happening around us, primarily among them being technology, the emergence of technology. Our whole life now is in like a 6 by 3 inches screen. Everything is in the palm of our hands. Then there is a lot of climate change is an issue. A lot of regulatory things are coming up in terms of, sustainability is there. Then there are a lot of growth prospects. There are many developing countries, which are growing at a fast pace. So consumer needs are changing. Consumers are changing. The way that they live is changing. So all of this, in fact, we are living, it wouldn't be wrong to say that we are living in a time of change. And we thought this conference, which happens actually every 2 years, but this one is happening after 4 years because COVID showed its, it came in the middle amongst us. So after 4 years, we felt this is a good platform for IPA and for our, paint industry to look at this idea of change. And so we decided when we were planning the conference to have a theme of Nutation, reimagining the paint business. Now mutation is not actually mutation. So as for the media, let me just make it very clear. Mutation means a genetic change. We are not talking here about a genetic change because the industry has a very strong genetic potential and it's been going on in a certain way for over 100 years in the country. There is a certain way in which it works, all the processes and, the way that they conduct the business is done in a certain way. The word mutation means a shift of axis. And if you look at the logo that we have there, you can see that there is a planet with an axis. We have made the axis green because green is the future for every company which exists, whether it is in the chemical space or whether in any other space. What we are trying to represent here is the paint industry is like a planet, and it's been going around for so many years, but now it needs to shift axis and go around in a different way. So this is a theme of change, and that's the theme we have chosen for the conference. So Nutation, reimagining the paint business. That's the theme. And we have a very packed program. We have here almost 700 delegates. The precise number is 675 delegates have registered for this conference. Not only from India, but they are from different parts of the world. We have people, and we have an inaugural program today afternoon. Tomorrow whole day we have business sessions. And then on the last day we just have a closure ceremony with a nice fireside chat. And we close the event. There's a lot of, so we have packed it. It's a very tight-knit program, a lot of good discussions. We are hoping to have a lot of good entertainment. We have some very star performers. So between knowledge and entertainment, and then more than anything else, to connect with old friends and colleagues from the industry. We are looking at a wonderful time to have with everybody here. And really would like to thank you for making it here today. Really appreciate your presence here. And I hope that you will have a lot of good message to take away from here, to take it out there to the people who read all your papers and, every media that you have. Thank you.
I think the industry is poised at a very unique juncture. And I think this decade is a very exciting decade going forward for the industry. And once again, a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you.
I'm the third generation in my company, Saujanya Group, and I did most of my education abroad. After that, when it was time for me to move back and join our business and be part of this 100-plus-year-old industry, a lot of people were skeptical and surprised why somebody like me would make this choice. Having done that then, and having spent the last 7 years deeply ingrained and trying to learn the intricacies of this industry, I'm convinced that this industry has some of the most wonderful and talented people, and also some of the most cutting-edge technologies and some of the best-in-class business practices, right, from the sales, distribution, supply chain, all the aspects of business. And speaking of the times of change that we are going through and being so ingrained in the industry, I'm also convinced that we in this industry are perfectly poised to adapt and be game changers in this time of change. With this conference, we hope to bring all of these aspects, the positives of the industry and our future plans into the limelight and communicate this to a larger audience to attract more and more talented, newer, brighter minds into this industry. Thank you.
So I think the paint industry has always been very attractive for the last, 2 decades. If you see, we've always seen a lot of multinationals, a lot of Indian entrepreneurs kind of coming on the anvil. We have seen multinationals earlier like Jotun, Nippon, Sherwin-Williams, all have kind of entered. We've also got Benjamin Moore, who's entered in a small way to that extent. So I think over the last 2 decades, we've seen a plethora of MNCs coming into that extent, along with a lot of Indian entrepreneurs which are now stepping into the zone because I think from a point of view of infrastructure construction, it is a natural extension which kind of comes in because you are catering to the overall construction piece in a big way to that extent. The other area which we have seen is that given the whole potential, you just saw that the overall paint consumption, which is in India, is only at a certain level. This is literally 1/10 the size in terms of what we see in the Western geographies. So overall, as we see all together, is that
Just to add one more point, that if you look at it from a global industry perspective, the global paint industry is valued at around $175 billion, and India is just $8 billion. But if you look at the growth rates which are there in India vis-a-vis the other countries, so India is growing at a double digit, while most of the developed world is growing in single low digits. So if you project this in the next 20-25 years, you'll find India's share in the total global paint market will significantly go up. And that's possibly the opportunity that a lot of global MNCs are seeing and what is attracting them to this country.
Okay. Hello.
Take this.
Hello. So I can just add one small point. India today is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Compare it to all the other nations in the world. So there is that much room for growth. One of the other big factors is the relatively younger population. If you look at the way the different countries are, there are a lot of senior people in many other countries. In India, there are a lot of young people. And that leads to a more aspirational expectation out of life. People want a better life, a good life. Everybody wants to be living better. So I think this is one of the biggest factors which also, and paint being a product which is associated with, like a dream house or a dream car, and, having, everybody wants to have a very nice house, Paint is associated with that. That is one of the reasons which impacts the good growth and good attraction for the paint industry.